Welcome to the Dog Expert Podcast, the podcast dogs would want you to listen to. Powered by canineprinciples.com, helping passionate dog people go from feeling unsure and overwhelmed to confident, compassionate and science savvy through a rich library of online courses and formal qualifications. Each week on the podcast, we dive deep into the real, raw and rewarding world of dogs. This isn't about obedience. This is about understanding. Because dogs aren't problems to solve. They're free-thinking, sentient beings to connect with.
Hello, good evening.
Good morning, evening.
Welcome to the Dog Expert Podcast, Season 3, Episode 3. This week we are joined by the wonderful Carri Westgarth, and we are going to be talking about Ageing Dog Toolkit. So all dogs grow older, we hope. And it's really important that we know what tools are available to us and how we can best support them in their old age. My name's Jo Middleton from Canine Principles, the International Institute for Canine Ethics and the International School for Canine Psychology. And my wonderful co-host is...
My name is Emily Dustin from C Spot Learn. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see you all again. Well, you, Jo.
Now, before we bring Carri on to the podcast, I just wanted to quickly touch on what we talked about last week, because you weren't able to make it last week because of the time differences. And we were talking about, we had wonderful Vicky Skinner from Animal Focused as our guest speaker. And Vicky was talking about how to be an ethical dog professional. And you have actually just done something amazing, haven't you? What have you done?
Oh, after immigrating, COVID and everything else in between, I've been able to open up my own behavior and training center here in Auckland. It's been quite a roller coaster, but it's here. It's been very difficult because it's not even just the premises. There's a lot of things, boxes that you have to tick. And because there are certain standards that I need space to make sure whatever dogs I have ample space to move around, or, visual barriers and everything like that. So the center is definitely a dream come true, but it's making sure that all the dogs in that center are catered to for every part of their emotional well-being. Love
it. And are you doing any grooming out of it as well? Because you've got your holistic grooming business.
Oh, everything. So because it for a couple of years, it was so limiting with what I was able to do because of everything I did in South Africa. I do care with older dogs, this is why, again, one of my favorite topics, because they've got such a really special place in my heart, our little golden oldies. It was a good couple of years, I did post-op work to help one of the veterinary physiotherapists with TPLO injuries or dogs who've had hip dysplasia, and they wanted to build the muscle before an op. So whatever muscle that they've lost, that just gets regained, and they've already done the exercises. So everything in that center is going to cater to that. So it will be my one-on-one grooming, behavior consultations, training, very specialized puppy daycare. So I'll only have a very small group of puppies, and it's not them just running around. It will be marking the times that they sleep, that they wake up. All right, you're starting to get a little bit over aroused. Your last sleep was this. All right, here's a chew for you. You need to go and have a little bit of a rest break. And then along with all the other services that I'd offer as well.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So lots of exciting developments, and your lovely husband is making lots of cool stuff.
Oh my goodness, so cool.
Yeah. He's made some really cool enrichment bits and bobs, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
Exciting. Oh, fabulous. So if you can pop the link in, if anyone wants to check out, if anyone's listening in your neck of the woods who wants to check out what you're up to, if you can pop the link in, we can add it to the show notes afterwards. That'd be brilliant.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, that would be great.
So we are super excited to be welcoming Carri Westgarth. As Emily said, the Ageing Dog Golden Oldies is something that we're both very passionate about. For me, particularly with my rescue background, I see so many older dogs being overlooked in rescue, and spending their twilight years in a kennel, which if people were better equipped and understood more how best to support our aging dogs, maybe we could reduce the number of dogs that are overlooked and left in kennels for years. So with that, before we talk all night, let's bring Carri on, because she's the reason we're here tonight.
Yay! Welcome, Carri.
Hi.
Hi, Carri.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, no, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell anyone who's not familiar with the wonderful work that you do more about how your journey has led you to being here talking about the Ageing Canine Toolkit?
Okay, so I am a professor of human animal interaction at the University of Liverpool. So I've been working there 20 years now, from my PhD upwards. I did my undergraduate at Liverpool as well, but then I worked for a few years in animal rescue as an animal care assistant, and then as an assistance dog trainer. And then I came back to Liverpool to do a PhD, looking at how people interact with their dogs and how that might affect disease transmission. And I never left. So I've always been really interested in both sides of things. In my spare time, whilst I was doing all this research, I was also instructing dog training classes and training to be a behaviourist. So I'm a full member of the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors as well. So I like to think I've got like the practical side that, you know, I've worked with, not so much now, I must admit, but I have worked in a lot of animal jobs as a trainer, as a behaviourist, in rescue. And so the research I try and get funded is all around the types of things that I think are the challenges in the field at the time, and the things I'm observing or people are telling me are challenges, and then how can we use that to try and best support real life. So it's not just theoretical science, if you know what I mean. I try and do much more practical, applied science. And I'm interested in both sides of things. I've always been interested in animal welfare and behaviour, but really appreciative that it's us choosing to own pets for certain reasons, and we have got to be getting good things out of the relationship as well for this to work. So there's got to be a middle ground where we both can flourish. So kind of maximize those benefits and minimize the challenges. So I did lots of research, mainly around dog walking. I had some funding around that for human health, mental health benefits, do a lot of research around dog bites, have products on dog obesity. I do other species as well. I'm very excited. We've now got funding to look at cat ownership and owner well-being, and cool. small furry pets and owner well-being. So I'm so excited. Those projects have just started. But this actually came about, this aging stuff. It was around the time that one of my dogs was getting to senior stage anyway herself, but that's a bit of a coincidence. But a researcher, Lisa Wallace, she'd done a lot of work in Vienna and Budapest, looking at canine cognition and canine aging and things, and she moved to the UK and she wanted to do some research, and we happened to thankfully get some funding from BSAVA Pet Savers, who wanted to do a citizen science type project that really involved people in the research. So we wanted to do some research around really understanding how people experience caring for aging dogs.
Oh, that's really good.
And vets as well, how veterinary professionals' experience trying to treat aging dogs and working with clients of aging dogs, and what were the main challenges, and then could we design something to try and address those challenges. And I'm aware I was talked for a long time there, but that's my potted history.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent.
That's brilliant. No, that's why we wanted you on the podcast, is to talk to us, because there are so many areas of synergy with your history and our values, and that everything sort of forms the bigger picture of why all three of us are giving up our evenings to talk about dogs and how we can best help them. So the toolkit was developed from owner and vet research, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It came about from firm foundations of research. Can you tell us a bit more about how that all came about? And then maybe we can talk a bit more about the actual dogs themselves and the sort of behavioural signs that we're monitoring.
Yeah, so we had 3 parts of the project. So Lisa did some qualitative interviews. So that's having that in-depth conversations, both with vets and nurses and physios and with owners, to understand their experiences and their perceptions and beliefs around these things. We then use those findings to develop questionnaire surveys, again, to try and get a kind of more broader view. So, you know, the interviews, you're talking 15 owners and 11 veterinary professionals. It was actually a quite a small project in some senses, because it was only over 2 years and it was part-time for Lisa. She did a lot of work. So she did those interviews, and then we expanded into questionnaire. So there was a veterinary professional survey and an owner survey. So about 600 owners and about 300 veterinary professionals filled that in. Okay. But along this time, we also had an MPhil student, a master's student on the project as well. And she looked at, we have something at the University of Liverpool called SAVSNet, which is a small animal veterinary surveillance network. So basically, the computer systems in the veterinary surgeries all across the UK, some of them are linked to this studies. And we can basically just search across those consultations. So we searched for words like elderly, old, aging, geriatric, senior, and pulled out those consultations where those words have been mentioned in the notes. And sometimes it gets it wrong because it's a elderly owner. But most of the time it's because they're describing something about the animal. And obviously we focus this one on dogs. And so she could then look at those veterinary records and classify what was going on, what was the dog being brought in for, what was going on. So we had 3 different types of data feeding into this. And the main findings really from the qualitative and then built on that on the quantitative surveys was this idea. There's a lot of things that as owners, they'll just say, well, it's just old age. So the first paper we published was called Just Old Age. In particular, so we got them to describe what sorts of things they thought were just old age in the interviews. And then we could turn that into survey questions. And we could ask the vets and the owners to kind of rank different behaviours as which ones they most thought were just old age and wouldn't do anything about it. And you've got, you've got those classic things like, slowing down on walks, sleeping all the time, being stiff on rising, not walking up the stairs very well anymore. And actually, the veterinary professionals were saying, these are the things that if you came to me a year ago, I could have helped with them.
Yeah.
The dog was probably in pain. We could have managed this better. Could have maybe put it on pain medications. And these aren't all necessarily things that could be treated, but they are things that veterinary professionals can actually give you management advice as well to help. So it's not about making the animal better, because it is old. But you can adjust things. Partly that could be pain medication, but there are other things that you can do. I mean, obviously, there's brilliant resources like canine arthritis management that's got all these toolkits of things.
Heat packs. Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
all these things you can do. Putting rugs down in your house so your dog doesn't keep skidding around on the floors, things like that.
Orthopedic mattresses.
And they don't always have to cost much either. No. So there was this disconnect. But this is also around the same time as people are saying, well, my dog's always been really healthy, so I don't need to go to the vet. And he's old now, so he doesn't need his vaccinations. So that one time a year check-in that hopefully you would get in those really responsible owners that were taking them for vaccinations once a year, these animals weren't getting that. And actually vets were saying, I want to see an old dog every 6 months, not every year.
Yeah.
And forget the vaccinations. And forget the vaccinations. We can have that conversation separately. I just want to do a checkup actually and talk to you. And then the vets were saying that even when they come in, there's this is short consultation. There's a lot to get through. If they've thought to come in to tell me about something, great. But there's probably a lot of things that are, they make this kind of golden checklist. They say, is it peeing? Is it pooping? How's his walking? Is he doing? They try and make all these checklists to try and run through things. And you just think, what if there was some sort of toolkit? And we said, would this be helpful? If there was something that could direct owners to come into if they saw certain signs, or to raise things with you if they saw certain signs. So raising awareness of it and then directing and kind of almost speeding up the conversations with vets. So and there was a disconnect around canine cognitive dysfunction as well. Doggy dementia, owners talk about this a lot. And vets talked about it much less actually. What was really important for them actually was really annoying with things like dental disease that wasn't getting picked up and stuff. Whereas owners were far less concerned about things like that. It's got bad breath. There was so much disconnect going on, and it's like, how can we bridge that gap? So at the end of it all, we created a toolkit with BSAVA Pet Savers, and the main part of it is a checklist. And from the wording of the discussions we'd had with people, and from the types of conditions, I mean, you can't go through every single thing that might be wrong with your dog and put it on a list. Does it do this? Does it do that? But what were the key things that we would hope from our research that we wanted to you put in a checklist? It's a traffic light system. So red is yes, I've seen this. Amber is maybe does this, and then no is green. That's fine. This
all good.
Isn't a challenge. So you could go through these checklists on a regular basis, or you could just sit and watch. You could, whilst you're sitting in the waiting room, you could see it on the wall maybe and think, oh no, he does do that. I'll mention that to the vet whilst I'm in there. So it's very flexible in how it could be used. But there is a booklet with copies of this checklist in the back of it. And there's kind of 13 different topics. And we can explore those in a minute because there's probably a lot to go through for all of those topics. And towards the end, it might get a bit teary with some of those topics as well, as a warning.
Oh, goodness.
While we're all here.
It's so needed. It's such a part of a dog's life that is almost taken for granted, that they're going to deteriorate and they are going to sleep more and they are going to move more slowly and they are going to have smelly breath. It's almost like it's become the norm rather than how can we best support them. And one of the things that you mentioned was the dental side of things. And for me, that's something absolutely massive and way behind human throughout the dog's life, but more so obviously as they're aging, way behind human dental care. It is, canine dental care just doesn't happen unless you've got
really hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Years. I was actually having a conversation with a vet a couple of weeks ago, and they were suggesting that we bring dogs in every year to be put under anaesthetic so they can have a proper dental check. And I don't really know enough about the effects of anaesthetic on dogs, but if I know that toothache blimmin' well hurts.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it has such an effect on behavior and demeanor as well. I mean, any pain influences behavior.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that you touched on as well, which is every time I'll have an older dog in my behavior consultation, the first thing I start to look for is signs of CCD. It's seeing, you know, are they walking and they're almost just walking in a robotic movement, and then like they're just doing something and then all of a sudden they're back with it, or besides from movements, their responses to things, and I'll ask those questions. But when you have deterioration in the muscles and the joints, and the dog is starting to show signs of cognitive dysfunction, and their teeth are not, you know, that they're becoming, that's deteriorated as well. All these things impact the quality of life. And I find even the most caring people who love their dogs so much, they just get into a routine of every single day.
Yeah.
And it's, yes, we know dogs are not with us for as long as we would love them to be. Their lives are very, very short on this earth. But it's this pattern and this loop that just happens that, oh, they're fine. They, like you said, they're just getting older. They'll be all right. They'll be all right. They're just getting older. But the dog, especially as they get, especially larger breeds, they can deteriorate so rapidly. And all of a sudden, oh, they were a little bit stiff-legged a couple of weeks ago. Now they're struggling to get up at all. And to improve the longevity of their whole body is those yearly vet checks, or even as they get older, 6 months, just pop in, has anything changed? And that's why I'm so excited about this checklist that you've mentioned, because it is so needed for everybody involved with animal welfare, especially when it comes to our golden oldies.
Yeah. And it's not always about lack of knowledge. It's just that it's so gradual, and you're seeing them every single day, that it's not until you sit down and go through these questions and reflect back, and maybe like look at a video of your dog from 6 months ago, and go, oh God, yeah, no, I don't think it doesn't play like that anymore. You have to have these I mean, I know it's a cat example, but things like weight loss. You know, I took my cat to the vet, and he said, oh God, he's lost a lot of weight, and it happened so gradually. And the cat had always been really fat. He'd always struggled with his weight. And so to me, the fact that he wasn't overweight, it felt like I was doing well. And then he went, no, he's too thin now. And you know, he was getting old, and he was obviously getting kidney problems and things. But if it hadn't been my vet even saying to me, no, this is, you know, I have not seen this cat for a few months, and I think there's a problem, because I knew what he looked like before, but it was so gradual to me. I hadn't really twigged it, but at least I was still taking him in on a regular basis. So it's to encourage in two ways. This, you know, it's to encourage people to notice something and book an appointment, but then also when they have got their yearly checkups anyway, what sort of things do I maybe need to bring up? Just like a self checklist. Okay, I'm going to go through all of these things now and see if anything has changed, and ask myself these questions. And it's not built around specific diseases either. It is built around systems, the checklist. But, you know, if it says, you know, is your dog losing weight even though he's eating the same? That could be for numerous reasons. Or is your dog looking fatter than normal, has got a bigger belly? That could be because he's obese and he's got overweight, or it could be for other medical reasons.
And the
so
body's
it's
not
a diagnostic. It's not a diagnostic tool. That's for the vet to do. It's what things might you notice and want to go to the vet and tell the vet about. But starting mainly with the mobility. And we talk a lot about observations on this podcast, and how knowing
a baseline normal for your dog as an individual is really important. But like you say, when you're seeing a being every day, you don't notice. Like with children, like I can go without saying my godchildren for 6 months and I'm like, wow, you've shot up, and the mum's like,
Yeah.
really? But you mentioned the traffic light system there with the checklist. What would you class as a real red flag change that would need seeking veterinary care imminently?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I'm not a vet, and I'm not. Yeah, I don't know the clinical detail. I mean, the flag is basically if you can answer yes or maybe to any of these questions, book in to see your vet. It doesn't say how. We did debate, did we need to put in more detail? But because it's not about specific conditions, like we're not diagnosing specific things, it was hard to actually build that into it. So it is more general things. Is your dog acting depressed, lethargic, looking sad or disinterested in life? There could be lots of different reasons for that. It could be pain, it could be cognitive dysfunction. There's all sorts of things. There could be, kidney disease. I mean, they feel rubbish when the kidneys are bad, don't they? So there could be lots of different clinical reasons. So basically, as soon as possible, really, I would say. So the first topic is mobility. So there's a few questions around that, and I've said most of those. Are they slowing down, tiring on walks, wanting to go for a walk less? Are they struggling with stairs, getting onto the sofa or bed, or stiff on rising? But then it also says, are they limping, dragging, or scuffing their feet, wobbly or falling over? So actually, that's probably more neurological as opposed to, say, arthritic. But to the owners, this is all about how the animal is moving. So that's why they're all together under mobility. If that makes sense.
That can also just make the vet's job and observation so much easier, and really because it's pinpointing for them to now know the questions to ask, what to test for, what else to do. So it really, actually, by the sound, it just really helps that consultation for them.
And the owner can then turn up and say, oh, I got a video of it for you to see. Nice. Because they knew they were going to bring this up at the consultation. Just helps them to plan in advance. Look, here she was trying to get up and she was stumbling. And I've got a video for you to watch. So things like that can be really helpful.
Really helpful, because I feel like vets get a really hard rap of things because they're literally seeing a dog in an unnatural environment for that dog, where its levels are all heightened and adrenaline's masking pain in many cases, so it's not displaying its true aches and pains as it might do at home. So for the dog's guardian to be able to actually take a video of the real scenario when it's jumping on and off the bed or not anymore, and to actually give the vet a proper picture of what's going on with the dog's body, and forearming them, rather than, like, for example, my lovely boxer girlie Leah, I'll never forget that I took her into the vets to be put to sleep, and because her adrenaline levels were so heightened, and this is after a long cancer journey, because her adrenaline levels were so heightened, when we walked into the vet practice, the vet said, oh, she's still quite sprightly, isn't she? And I thought, for goodness sake, like, literally we'd gone through such a process to get to the point where, you don't take that decision lightly, and then for him to say, but it was because her adrenaline levels were heightened, and she was masking best she could, bless her. So I think if we're able to educate guardians through this toolkit on how to actually do those observations at home, and to take the videos, but it doesn't need to be a 20-minute video that you're showing the vet, just which bits to extract.
It's just that awareness that just makes it so much better.
You've also got to think, like, gone are the days of, unfortunately, gone are the days of that vet that you've got that's going to be putting your dog to
yeah.
sleep that knew it from a puppy.
Yeah.
Generally, because vets are moving around. They are the practices are under so much more pressure. You sometimes do have to see other people a lot more. So I think they used to have much more of a sense, like my vet with the cat. He knew he'd known my cat since I got him when he was 4, so he knew what was right for that cat to look like. But we need to help vets as much as we can get as much information gathering as possible. And if somebody who's taking their animal to the vet can say, oh, it's these things that I'm worried about that I think have changed, and it just prompts them to have that discussion. He's drinking more and he never used to drink, we just got this weird lump. Like, has that lump always been sometimes lumps are there for 5-10 years. It doesn't matter, like what's a concerning lump and what's not a concerning lump. It's really it's hard for people to know. So this list does hopefully help with that. There's a section on confusion, which you'll be interested with. Does your dog have episodes of looking confused, staring into space, bumping into things, aimlessly pacing? They started waking during the night. That comes up a lot. And then are they losing their sight or hearing as well? Because it's really hard to disentangle all of that. Are they just being weird because they can't hear and see very well?
Or reactive. Because now they're startled.
Is there more going on there? And I do think there's more we need to do around supporting owners with that, because a lot of them talk about doggy dementia, and they talk about how hard it is and how that affects the relationship as well, because it may be that the dog's waking them up multiple times in the night now. So one of the questions we do have, it's not just about signs of the dogs. We do have questions around your dog's quality of life. Are you concerned about it? Do you think it's getting worse? But we've also got questions about, it's called care. So it says, is looking after your dog becoming more challenging than it used to be? And I think that's one of my favorite questions.
That's a really good question.
In this, because that can open up such a conversation of stuff that can be advised, that just to help support that relationship and keep that relationship going, because it will get harder when your dogs get older. Everyone talks about how hard puppies are, but then there's this whole years at the end when and at some point you have to make a decision about if your dog is just pooping everywhere all the time.
That's no quality of life.
And they are walking through it. So this is pre-COVID, obviously, with my older dog Jazz. I think she was having some sort of seizures. I was with her through some of them. She'd get very confused and she'd stiffen up. They were a bit like vestibular episodes, but she'd had a few of them during her life, but they were a bit different from that. She was having these episodes where she was pacing a lot, and one time she paced for an hour crying, and then she had one of these episodes, and I had to hold her while she was kind of almost like falling upside down. And I would come home from work and I would find poop just smeared all over the floor. So she'd lost control and then paced and paced. For how long? The other two dogs are then like, oh God, this is not nice. She's looking distressed. Once I found her half out the cat flap. She was like a large spaniel size. Wow. I don't know why she tried to get out of the cat flap, but she was obviously distressed and trying to get out of the utility room when she was alone. And it got hard at that point for her quality of life. But for me, every time we left the house, we could come home and we could be not just there's been a poop and you got to clean up the poop, but it's been smeared everywhere. And I know there are ways, washable puppy mats. Big incontinence pads, excellent. They are, there are things like that can help you deal with those things. But that conversation has to be had. It's not just about the animal. It's about how are you coping and are you able to cope with this? If you've got a large dog that can't, that's really struggling to get up the stairs, but it can't sleep on its own because it's never slept on its own, it's always slept with you, and you're an elderly person yourself and you cannot carry that dog up the stairs,
can't physically help, what are you going to do?
That's a very different situation to if you were a younger person who could carry the dog upstairs and settle it down for you at night. So that's why I wanted that question in there, because it is about how a caregiver is coping as well. And vets are pet owners themselves, and they've helped a lot of people through these things. And vet nurses are a fantastic resource as well to talk through these things with. So hopefully that would instigate some seeking advice and help around that.
Just going back to the poo, which rewinding to the poo. What my lurcher who's here, Willow, she has cluster seizure epilepsy. And when she goes, she loses control of her bodily functions, and then afterwards she's pacing, and I can completely relate. We're very lucky where we are. We've actually got something like a wet room that's all hosable. So when that happens, we're very lucky in the situation that we're in, that it can not be all over the carpet, not all over the furniture, not all over the walls. But there's a health and safety risk that needs to be taken into consideration. So if you are going to put incontinence pads on, or you're going to put something like that on, but you've got a dog that's partial to seizures, then there's a risk to the dog's welfare of potentially having anything on its body while it's going, while it's fitting, but also the contamination risk with the feces. If you've got children, you've got hygiene issues. There are so many different considerations to take in. And when they're pacing it after a seizure or an episode or whatever it is that they're having, they're often not aware of their surroundings fully and trying to get out of a cat flat. We've had window incidences where the window's been closed and she's run full pelt into things, and it's heartbreaking as the caregiver to want to not say goodbye to them, but at the same time your quality of life is compromised, but theirs is massively compromised too. And when you're working full time, or you've got a dog walker coming in at lunchtime, there are so many different scenarios. And having everyone in the family unit on board with the decision is really tricky as well. So it's
so hard to emotionally take yourself out of it, because this is a being that has been with you for over most likely 10 years. And now the time has come and the reality is there, but to actually do that is a whole different ballgame.
One of the interesting things about some of the other research we did during COVID, and it came up during this as well, because so we had all the ethics approval to start these interviews, and then COVID happened and we weren't allowed to do any in-person data collection, so we had to stop and just switch it all to online interviews and read your ethics anyway. But actually, we found in some of our other published work about how people were dealing with managing diseases and during COVID is because people were at home more, they could actually extend their dog's life and keep them going for longer because they were there and able to support. So with Jazz, if I had been at home during the day working, if someone had been with us, or if she'd pooped, she needed to go out, or she was feeling distressed, we could have sat with her. Then that would be okay. You know, that could have been better. But for what I saw, she was that final night. My mum was staying, and we were like, "What is wrong? What is wrong with this dog? She just will not settle." And then she had the seizure, and my mum said to me when her mother, so my granny, she was having seizures and strokes and things towards the end, and she, when she could speak, she would say, "Don't let it happen anymore. It's awful." And she said she really her behavior really reminded me of Granny. And that's what made my decision, was that if the dog keeps going through all of this without me there, that's not fair. But that was the position we were in at that time. Like I tried to work from home as much as I can, but it's not like now when my husband basically rarely leaves the house and the dogs lie by his feet all day. It's a completely different scenario. And really interestingly, I'm trying to get more funding into this. There is a question at the end around end of life. We and ahed whether this goes in or not, and went round and round in circles. And how do we phrase it?
Should,
because it needs to be a whole project in itself, and we are still trying to get funding for this and not doing very well at the moment. But I won't give up. So some of these conversations we had with people, obviously, they talked about their end of life experiences. When we raised this issue with people, a lot of the time, they'd never even discussed what was gonna happen. And people in the family had completely different expectations of what would happen. So they'd just be like, well, I've not really thought about it. Like, I'm sure when my mum's dog died when I was a kid, we just took it to the vet and got it put to sleep. So, so they've not planned this at all, what might happen, or they just they can't face thinking about
head
it.
in the sand.
It's so, too distressing. I can't even think about it. But actually what we know is there is so many decisions that have to be made in that moment, especially if it's like you wake up one day. With Jazz, that was so hard because I had to make the decision to basically end her life on a day that she was actually all right. But it was because I knew what the bad days were like. Whereas with Ben, the previous collie, we thought he had making a funny noise when he ate. Eventually a vet confirmed, he's got a tumor in his throat. We can feel it now. 6 weeks later, he's just not breathing right. Like he just wakes up and he's not breathing right. Today is the day. It wasn't a stressful decision in that sense. But so that was lucky, but it's not always like that. And you need to know, they're going to ask you a lot of questions. They're going to ask you whether you want a paw print, whether you've taken the animal home, do you want him cremated, what sort of things, like people might want a home euthanasia. Does your practice even offer a home euthanasia? I was really lucky I managed to get one with Jazz, but that's probably because I set it up. I had that planning to set it up, and it was lovely. But so for people to know and have discussed, at least within a family, what they potentially want, because some of them are like, we're like, well, I want him, but I want him cremated. No, I wouldn't want him cremated. I want to bring him home. Like, like you need to have this discussion now, not on that day. And a prime example, I'm fully prepared, aren't I? I go to my vet to put the cat to sleep eventually, and he says, what do you want? And I said, just real basic box. Like, I just thought, like my dogs, it's just a cardboard box and I scatter the ashes in the fields. What actually then happened was a few weeks later, I get this massive bill for this wooden box with a plaque on it that I can't get into this wooden box. And so he's 2 years later, he's still sat in our living room, and it's not what I wanted. But I've got to try and dig a big hole to bury this now, and our garden is full of rubble, so I can't bury it. The whole point was scattering the ashes. And do I want to prize them anyway? So it's just get these things in your mind and get a plan sorted beforehand, just so you know. So it says, although it's incredibly difficult to think about the end of your dog's life, there are decisions that will have to be made when the time comes. It's helpful to think about these sooner rather than later and have discussed in advance with family members. Do you feel prepared for what might happen? Would you benefit from discussing options available with your veterinary surgeon? And there's no traffic light with that. It's just to prompt people to even just think. And that can really help owners and vets to have those conversations, perhaps in advance of the emergency of, I think my dog is really, really sick.
And also
now
it helps families know that it's it's okay to have that conversation.
Yes.
It's safe. It's okay. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't mean you don't love your dog. It's because you love your dog that you are able to have that conversation.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that you mentioned there, Carrie, that I just want to pick up on. One is the costs of cremation and knowing the costs of the different options, because what you want to happen and what is affordable may be completely two different things. And that's something to be thinking about beforehand rather than in the spur of the moment. Another thing I just wanted to mention was about paperwork at the vets and payment and signing stuff. I always make sure I do that beforehand, because I'm in no fit state when I'm coming out of that veterinary surgery to be doing that. So I always make sure that I do the paperwork and the payment before I go in to take the dog in.
And that's hard, and they might expect that from you. So they might expect to know all of that detail beforehand. So you'll need to have that prepared. I mean, I've always been lucky with my vets. I've known him for 20 years, so and I've never not paid anything. So I think that's why I got away with we'll sort that out in a few days' time.
There are also
they might not have that.
No, they might not, but you can go to different veterinary practices. You can bring different veterinary practices, and there are also freelancing veterinary professionals who do home euthanasias as well.
So I'd love to study those, because that's really interesting.
Yeah, I've used them before. I won't talk about it too much because I'll start crying, but
I can't talk about this research without somebody crying, so don't feel bad.
But basically it's in two parts. So you have the veterinary professional that comes out to euthanize the dog, but then you have to wait for or we have to wait for the crematorium to come with the van to pick the dog's body up. So it's twofold kind of thing. And the final point that I just wanted to make was around sedation, and that is an option, and you can speak to your vet about having the dog sedated to it being euthanized. So I've done that in the past as well with a couple of different instances. One was with a dog that was being put to sleep by the rescue that I was fostering for because of aggression towards humans. And he was so high as a kite when he went. He had no clue what was happening. He was happy as Larry, but there's no way that the vet would have been able to get close enough to had he not been sedated. That was with a paste in his mouth orally, but also with an injection as well. They could, if they can get close enough, they can sedate with an injection, and then the dog literally just falls asleep, and then they're euthanized. There's no trauma.
That's
what happened with the cat. But you need to know that's what's going to happen. So when when we took the cat, I know we're talking about dogs, but the cat, it's very similar. The last one we lost was the cat. This is my son's first experience. So he's now 12, so he was about 10 when we lost the cat, and so the cat was older than him, had been his best friend his entire childhood. And I knew that they would sedate him, and so we'd take him in, and they would. So they's like, right, I'm going to take him out the back and sedate him now, and bring him back in, and you can say your goodbye, and we'll do it. But I said, stop. I said, Brandon, you need to say goodbye now. Give him a couple now, because I knew when that cat came back in, he was going to be pretty out of it already. You know, it's the final thing was stopping his heart, but it mentally. And if I hadn't jumped on that and just stopped them, and it's so fast. It just happens so fast.
Yeah. And you also want it over and done with, because it's just too much.
We needed just that final moment. And Brandon wouldn't have had that final moment to just give his cat one last cuddle with the cat purring and looking in his face, had I not known that. So that's why it's really important to talk through your vet. What's the process going to be, so you can understand that, because that would have been quite upsetting, because it would have looked like he'd already gone.
And when you've got kids in the mix as well, for them to go through that, it's already going to be traumatic. You want them to learn that it's
And
that
he was
even though
shocked.
this is hard, you're actually doing the
Yeah.
best because you love this animal. You
Yeah.
are
Yes.
putting your own emotions aside and doing what is best for them. But
Yeah.
children can't understand that. But the fact that you did that so he could have that moment, because what could have happened afterwards would have been more traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I let him call it as well. It was we discussed a lot, and we kept him going over Christmas and things. But and in the end, he said, "Mum, it's time. I've decided it's time."
true.
So having that discussion as a family and all being
Yes.
on board with it as much as you can. I know emergencies happen, but if you've talked about where is the line we would draw,
It makes it so much easier.
it makes it easier to
It
have
just
those
takes-
discussions. Is
yeah.
it today?
But everything with our dogs as a family unit, to talk about how we're interacting with them and whether everything surrounding them is they're part of the family, and to be able to provide them with that consistency as a unit, rather than them thinking they're going to get unpredictable responses from different people. Or, it should all come as part of that, and then naturally form on to actually where do we stand with this, and what are our sort of parting goodbyes going to be like, and what's realistic, because a child or another family member might want the ashes, or they might want to keep the collar or the tag or whatever it is, whereas another might find that really upsetting and really traumatizing. So.
But at least all of that helps with the grieving process, because it's the afterwards as well. You know, it just opens the path for, even though the discussion, oh, well, no, he's not there yet, we're not ready. Yes, I hear you. But if we can have this conversation now, then when the day does come, it might not be now, it could be a couple of months, it could be years, but at least it makes it somewhat smoother than what it would have been if we don't have it. And then at least it helps, all right, ticks those boxes, helps now make the decision when the time comes. So when it's over, the grieving process is also a lot easier than what it would have been, because like you say, it does happen so quickly. It's before you know it, the day is here, and you go, how is this possible? How he was fine yesterday, he can't get up today. And that prevention of the stress, and you're already in emotional turmoil, you're not ready for this, and then the time comes, it just makes it so much smoother, and the grieving process
as
easier
smooth
than
as
what
it can be anyway.
Yeah, as smooth as it can be. Absolutely.
Oh, Carri, we could talk to you all night. You've got a book though. I really need to ask you about the book.
Yes. Show us what there's the Ageing Canine Checklist is a booklet as well that looks all fancy. Hang on, I was going to take my headphones off and reach back and get the other book.
Grab it. Let's have a look. So the Ageing Canine Toolkit is a book that people can get. There's a website, BSAVA Pet Savers.
Yes. So you can order copies of the poster and the checklist for your veterinary practices or your training practice or whatever, and they will send you those.
To be ordered today.
A lot of this
on your face, and
a lot of this is also in my kind of book for general pet owners. It's got a lot of science in it, but hopefully in a digestible way, called The Happy Dog Owner, Finding Health and Happiness with the Help of Your Dog. And we had just started this research, so there is a chapter called Time to Say Goodbye that's in there, and I think there was a chapter. Is it all in the one chapter? Maybe it's all in one chapter about aging. But some good news stories that comes from the work we did. So I mentioned that when I started this project, one of my dogs was just turning senior. I mean, when is a dog even senior? That was one of the things we were exploring. So she's now 14. But a couple of years ago, so we just released this checklist. And I noticed, so one of the other symptoms, it says, is your dog showing any other changes, for example, coughing, panting, scratching, licking, tummy upsets, or anything else? But she started coughing a lot and she started panting a lot, even when it wasn't hot. And she started collapsing sometimes. So I thought she was having some sort of seizures. So I took her to the vets and said about this. And it turns out she got heart and bits of lung problems. So she did end up getting referred. She wasn't insured by that point, so she's an expensive pet. So she got referred for heart tests, and she has got, quite bad heart failure. But we picked it up. She's on lots of meds. We were going to get her through her last Christmas, and then she had a second last Christmas, and now we're heading towards her third last Christmas.
It's amazing for picking that up when you did.
Yeah,
because you've just given her 3 more years.
She runs around, she plays with the other dogs. It's amazing what can be done. I thought she was old, she was tired, she was slowing down on walks. That was one of my symptoms. But I'd noticed she'd cough sometimes in the morning. So these little things, but it just, particularly doing this work, made me take her to the vet.
It's amazing.
And yeah, we found stuff, and she's doing really great. And she's obviously under some good care from the vets, the specialist vets. But it can really, really help. So yeah, that's more a positive story, I thought.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's after the sad stuff.
Wonderful story to finish on, rather than us all crying.
Yeah.
If people want to get in touch and find out more about your work, or they want to download the booklet, or how do people reach you?
Yeah, so you can find me, just Google Carri Westgarth and you'll find my university email address. I have a Facebook page called the WAG Lab, the Westgarth Anthrozoology Group. So all of our research that we're doing, like if we're recruiting for research participants, that will go there, or if we have papers published, that will go out there. For this particular project, we actually had a Facebook, we do still have it, an old age pets project Facebook page as well, that we push stuff out. And BSAVA, their website, if you just search Ageing Canine Toolkit, you should be able to find the page where you can order copies. You can download PDF versions of it as well. But if you really want paper copies to put in a waiting room, you can have that, or post out to clients. You can have that, and do let me know what you think, because I want feedback, because if we may need, this was it went through iterations, but we put it out there hoping for feedback, and we don't know what sort of resources people want around it. So if you tell us, we can build that. If you think, I've tried asking that question to clients and that wording just is not correct, I think you should word it this instead, please let us know, because it can hopefully be a work in progress, and we can and tweak things as we go along, hopefully. And any news, any stories that's been helpful is also great, because I have to prove to the university that my research is important and having any impact outside academia. So that it's really important to feed back as much as you can.
Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us, Carri. It's an absolute joy to have you on. Emily and I will be back next week. We have got a fabulous speaker lined up, although they've got big shoes to step into after Carri this week.
This was great.
Absolutely fantastic, and conversations that really every professional needs to be having with dog guardians, but also we need to be thinking about as dog guardians as well. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Speak
Have
to
a
you
lovely
soon.
day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Dog Expert Podcast, the podcast dogs would want you to listen to. If you've enjoyed this episode, do come and let us know in our free Facebook group for dog lovers everywhere, Ethical Dog Training with Canine Principles. That way we can make more content like this that you'll love. We would love for you to leave a review on here and hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode.